Okay, the live stream is going. You ready to go?
Perfect. I'll kickstart the meeting. As usual, I will go through the reading of the policy, guys. Linux Foundation Antitrust Policy. Linux Foundation meetings involve participation by industry competitors, and it's the intention of the Linux Foundation to conduct all of its activities in accordance with applicable antitrust and competition laws. It is therefore extremely important that attendees read meeting agendas and be aware of and not participate in any activities that are prohibited under applicable US, state, federal, or foreign antitrust and competition laws. Examples of types of actions that are prohibited at Linux Foundation meetings and in connection with Linux Foundation activities are described in the Linux Foundation Antitrust Policy. If you have questions about these matters, please contact your company counsel, or if you're a member of the Linux Foundation, feel free to contact Andrew Upthegrove of the firm Gasper Upthegrove LLP, which provides legal counsel to the Linux Foundation. Hyperledger is committed to creating a safe and welcoming community for all. For more information, please visit our Hyperledger Code of Conduct. So, perfect. Welcome to this meeting. First of all, it's my pleasure to have you all here. We're going to have a quite new today, or live stream as we used to do in the past. We're going to present the initiative, a call to action, which is called Breaking the Silos. I'll go through a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Andrea Frosinini. I'm the current chair of the Hyperledger Trade Finance SIG, and I've been chairing this special interest group to start from January 2020, last year. So we got recently through a series of special meetings, and we decided to have this one in order to, let's say, have a sort of integrated initiative between all the SIGs. With me today, there are other 5 speakers that joined the initiative, that sign actually the initiative. Starting for the meeting, I would love to hand over to them and let them present themselves, introduce themselves, and I'd love to start from my colleagues at the SIG. Eugenio, Mark, will you introduce yourself, please, to the attendants? Who's going to start?
Andrea, should I?
Yes, please.
Okay, I take the lead. Very quickly, my name is Eugenio Reggiani. Andrea and I, we start working together on this trade finance special interest group almost one year and a half ago. I'm actually project lead within the community and working with different SIGs also especially in the finance space, in the capital market. I firmly believe in this initiative because we are getting the community into more complex use case and ecosystems, which requires cooperation of everybody. So everyone who is willing to help is more than welcome. And I lead to Mark.
Hi, thanks Andrea, and thanks Eugenio. My name is Mark Cudden. I am the CTO, CEO of WeTrade. I am an active member of the Hyperledger Trade Finance SIG. I also participate in Hyperledger in many other ways in terms of being a program committee member for whether it's the Hyperledger Global Forum or the Hyperledger Member Summit. So very much, I really believe in the need to strengthen the open collaboration among all the Hyperledger working groups. I found this initiative a very, very good and strong initiative. So I give fully my support and will give time and commitment to ensure the success of this initiative.
Thank you, Mark. When it comes to the rest, I mean, who would love to introduce himself? Alfonso, will you step in?
Yes, thank you. I'm Alfonso Govela from Mérida, Mexico, co-founder of the Hyperledger Latin America chapter and co-chair of the Learning Materials and Development Working Group with the great Bobby Muscara. Okay, And something that we do and that brings us here is open culture. So I think that it's about time that we promote open mindsets. Okay, we have a great geographical coverage in the world with the meetups groups, and David can talk about it. We have a great expertise geography with the special interest groups and the working groups. But we need to connect. We need to connect in order to cooperate. And breaking the silos is a good term to attract people. But actually, rather than breaking, what we want to do is connecting. And that's what I'm here and happy to connect.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Alfonso. As representative of two other SIGs, I would love to introduce the attendants with two more guys that join the initiatives, and I would love to start from Sai Chen from Los Angeles. Sai, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, Andrea. I'm from the Climate Accounting and Action Special Interest Group. And so thanks for inviting me here. I think that as we move forward, developing climate accountings on Hyperledger, and what we're now seeing is something that's needed in a lot of industries. A lot of it, from supply chain to finance, they're all looking for sustainability and climate solutions. And so this is a great opportunity for us to help all the different people in the different parts of Hyperledger to create the products that the market needs right now.
Great, thank you, Sai. Very good. And last but not least, I would say, my pleasure to introduce you to a friend of mine, Mr. Eric Valiquette from Montreal, Canada.
Hello, everyone. Hello from Canada, home of the best maple syrup in the world and of ice hockey. And ice hockey, just to prove my point, is still being played in the middle of June. So middle of the summer, we're playing ice hockey. You can't beat that. Also come from a 30-year career in logistics and supply chain. I am the president of the Canadian Blockchain Supply Chain Association and a very proud member of the supply chain SIG at Hyperledger. Been in this for about a year and a half, more or less, and a doubly proud participant in this initiative. And like supply chains are all about networks, I think this initiative is all about the network and all about the people you meet and bringing these people together to make something beautiful. So happy to be here today and looking forward to contributing with everybody on the call.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Nice to hear from you. I'm glad to have you here as well. I would love to start right now with a meeting. And if I manage to, I would love to share actually what we have prepared very quickly. I don't know why you can see my screen now. Can you? Can everybody see my screen?
I think we can, Andrea. Yes.
That's nice. Just a quick outlook. We've got the introduction. Yeah, please mute yourself because you can hear noise and it's pretty nasty. Oh. Thank you. Yeah. Can you please mute yourself?
I think, Andrea, you can. You're hosting. I think you can. You can mute.
Yeah. Now it's better. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I'll show again. Here we are. Here is the agenda of today's meeting. We've gone through, let's say, sort of self-introduction today. First of all, then we're going to have the manifesto message reading, and then we are going through a few questions that I will ask each attendant, each speaker to give his own perspective, his own answer. So I'll show you this thing first, which is the what you can see. Hold on, I will let you see here. What we prepared a few days ago, we published on our blog post this call for action. We are unearthing ways in which we can better collaborate to overcome today's and future cross-industry challenges by identifying and contributing heterogeneous expertise. Leveraging technology for the betterment of society, unifying open communities under Hyperledger. So first question in the agenda is why, and why now? What made you join this initiative? So I'm asking all of the 5 that joined us together, what made you do this? Why did you join this initiative? I would love to start giving this perspective. Eugenio, are you starting with the answer?
Okay. Well, essentially, why and why now? In my perspective, the why is very simple. I'm connecting with what Alfonso already stressed and mentioned earlier. I think Hyperledger represents one of the probably better in terms of vastity community worldwide global, which in some sense represents very good points between different people and expertise, which may represent and support the development of this underlined software product. You know, software is it's like a glue, and it's something that it's really, in some sense, tricky to connect, but some require high-level refinement. And for high-level refinement, I mean teamwork. And I think for the kind of challenging times we are facing, we must act really in a way of a global team to support the development of these great challenges. I'm just throwing out a few from the finance space, like a global money asset, which our technology could support and distribute to different range of the societies, and also all the related financial products, from the trade to the others. We need to work as a team to support the adoption of this technology and the harmonization of the technology in a way that society can use it easily. And to do this, we need to collaborate. We need initiative like this. So why now? Why now? Because I think we have been faced one of the most challenging time, especially in the last 2 years. And so I think a challenging time requires effort and massive action to overcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugenio. Very nice. I would love to go on, with our SIG members to give it a continuity to the discussion. Mark, will you give your perspective? Why did you join? Why now? What made you do this?
Yeah, following on from Eugenio, why now? Or why? Because I think it's a very good initiative to really kind of I think with the technology, we're all in Hyperledger. We all understand that Hyperledger, blockchain, very new technologies. So therefore, at times when we're all working in our spaces, we were kind of looking at trying to solve problems within our particular domains. And that kind of, rightly or wrongly, it kind of led us to kind of looking at our own problems myopically. But then, it wasn't until, at least when, I started to attend, the member summits, and looking at what other people were doing in each of their domains and how they were solving their problems in the global forum. Again, another good Hyperledger forum where again you could see what everybody else was doing around the world to solving problems and using the same technologies that we use but using it in different ways. So what drove me was kind of saying, okay, look, we've got all of these SIGs, we're all solving problems. Some of these SIGs are crossing over one another in terms of maybe, for example, trade finance needs to talk to somebody in logistics. Somebody needs to talk to somebody in port authorities. Definitely needs to talk to somebody in the regulatory space. So we're not just in our own bubble. So the whole idea, that why I kind of bought into this was, okay, we need to come out of our bubbles. We need to have a look at really as Alfonso said, connecting these different bubbles together, learning from one another, kind of removing the I'm looking after my problem and I'm going to solve my own problem, but really kind of leveraging the skills and expertise of other people and what other people have done in other domains, whether it's climate action and accounting, whether it's music and entertainment, whether it's supply chain, or trade finance. All of these different domains, we're using the technologies. We're in some cases we're bending the rules of what the technology can actually do to come up with new and interesting business models. And it's to really have that open collaboration. Hyperledger is all about open source. Let's have open communities in terms of collaborating and learning. Why now? Because I think the technology is definitely mature, because right at the very, very start, it was all new, learning our way, falling over ourselves, making some mistakes, making some successes, learning from our mistakes, etc. And then now I think the technology is definitely mature. We can see that there are successes out there, some very prominent successes out there, leveraging the technology. And it's actually been able to learn from those who have succeeded and continue to succeed. So standing on the shoulders of giants, making sure that we can continue to learn from one another. Hyperledger is all about open source, open governance. Now we talk about open communities.
Thank you so much, Mark. Very interesting. And of course, I do share your point of view. I will stick to this line, and hand it over to Eric, which belongs to you, is part of the Hyperledger supply chain SIG. And Eric, several times in the past, we discussed how similar and how entwined supply chain and trade finance are. So I'll leave it to you to deliver your reasons, your why you're joining this initiative.
Well, my main reason is what you're showing on screen, right? Collaboration is by far my favorite word in the whole world. So, it just makes sense. Like you mentioned, and the speakers before me mentioned, you can't have one without the other. You can't have supply chain without trade. You can't have trade without supply chain. You can't have deep impact on climate change without business getting involved in reducing their impact through their supply chains. And we all know that supply chains are full of waste. It could be wasted energies, wasted resources, wasted efforts. And I think that this technology is perfect for bringing down the waste level of the industry. And you can't do that in your bubble. Like Mark mentioned, right? You can't do that in your own bubble. You have to reach out to your business partners. And that's what blockchain is all about, right? Is that network of business partners exchanging, participating. And it would not make sense for us as a group not to do the same. I mean, we are here to reflect the advantages of blockchain, and by bringing together all these different working groups together, I think is the perfect example.
Very good, Eric. Thank you so much. We move now towards, climate action. Sai, you know that we cooperated, we started discussing so many issues recently, and I would love you to step in and give your why, your perspective into this. Sai, are you there?
Hi. So I'm from the Climate Action and Accounting SIG, and in the past year, we've developed Hyperledger and Ethereum, a set of open source tools to account for carbon emissions and tokenize them for trading between different parties. And so where this collaboration comes in is, the climate problem is happening because people have not collaborated, right? Every company sort of solved its own little problem and didn't think that what it did affected anybody else. And that's not true. Whether you're generating waste or carbon emissions, it's affecting everybody. So at the same time, what that means is now all these companies and all these industries are playing catch up, and they need to start considering and valuing and managing the climate impact of what they do. But they're really behind because their ERP systems and their logistics networks are built before the blockchain, and it's very hard for them to connect with each other. So I think this is a really unique opportunity if you're working in supply chain, in trade finance and whatnot, to use open source, to use the blockchain, to create the kind of supply chains and financial networks that will solve the climate problem. And this is what all the companies are looking for and what all the investors and banks are mandating now. So I think this is a great time for us to be coming into this kind of collaboration, and we hope to help a lot of you roll out solutions that will work for your markets and for your customers.
Thank you so much, Sai. Very interesting. Last, we had so far the perspective of the SIGs. And last, not least, this time it's up to Alfonso and give his perspective from one of the main chapters maybe in the world, Hyperledger Latino America chapter. Alfonso, give us your why, your reason why you joined this initiative.
Well, the reason is the passion that we all share. With blockchain, we share the passion of the power to decentralize. Okay. With open source, we share the passion of the power to collaborate. Okay. And the how also tell us why we launch Hyperledger Latino America. Okay. We were last year, and we were just getting out of lockdown. Okay. Lockdown was supposed to be a killer of meetups. But what happened is that by virtual meetupping, we started to connect the meetups in the world in ways that we couldn't and didn't do before. Okay. So Hyperledger Latin America began by putting together the meetup groups of 10 initial countries. And suddenly we realized that we had a language together. We could connect with Spain. We can introduce also Brazil and Portugal, okay, with this Portuñol, okay. And so we got out of lockdown virtually. Now, I think it's time, as we get out of lockdown, to get out of mindset lockdown. We've been locked down in silos, in groups that were necessary and are necessary, because when you share assumptions, when you share methods, when you share notions from particular views of the world or philosophies of life, you can advance knowledge. But when that collective framework restricts behavior, it's time to get out of that lockdown. So it's time to get out of the lockdown of our mindsets, not to leave them, but to become open mindsets. And open mindset means, of course, connecting, as you said before, connecting all the software tools, okay? But now we have to connect the knowledge of our business models and our business cases and use cases, because it's in the solving of the real world problems before, during the pandemic, that we can advance multidisciplinary collaboration. So we have to cooperate. And that's what we're doing in Hyperledger Latin America. We build the connections. We are now promoting the translation to Spanish of documentation. We got together in this global forum with this 8 other languages in the world. We're pushing for an international cooperation to translate. Translation is a way to exclude people. And there are 2 inclusions we have to work now. Inclusion of language and inclusion of mindsets. And the way we do inclusion of mindsets is by knowing the other mindsets and connecting with them.
Perfect, Alfonso. Thank you so much. Let's say that the COVID-19 was a crazy perfect storm that makes us all starting days. So hopefully we're going to be out of the lockdown, both physically and mentally. Once this is said, we all said why we are joining this initiative. How do you see, I'm turning on to all the speakers today. How do you see this call to action, this action actually evolving in the near future? We'd love to hear from you about this. How do you see in the middle term this call to action going to turn into something else, maybe something bigger? Who would love to start?
Well, I think Alfonso used the right word, right? I think all the people on this call are very passionate about DLTs, about blockchain, and this call to action is going to stir up that passion even more so by opening up, he was mentioning different mindsets, and then hopefully this type of call and these initiatives will show everybody that we can have different mindsets and still bring them together to bring better results.
Totally agree with you, Eric. And I think one important item is to still thinking out the box and push the ball outside the box, because I think I'm connecting with what I said before. We are moving as a society in a place, in a world where things are really getting complicated. And so I would like to add one word, which is infrastructure. Our technology provide an infrastructure, and an infrastructure which can connect to different kind of information. And this is reflected in the manifesto, where we say cross-industry challenges, which I think it's a main point reflecting how we want to do this, is to cut out these cross-industries challenges by joining the mind together and solving these problems.
Thank you, Eugenio. Thank you, Eric. Sai.
Yeah, so go ahead. If you guys.
No worries. I didn't want to interrupt you, actually. Go ahead.
So yeah, I think a very legitimate and real thing that we could collaborate on is in supply chain. There's been demand from large corporations like, for example, Apple, Google, Microsoft to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. And what they're doing is they're funding projects of their suppliers to use renewable energy and other things to reduce the whole impact of their supply chain. And also there's been banks who want to finance a more green and sustainable supply chain. So a very logical place for us to start working on is integrating climate into the supply chain, and then integrating those climate metrics then into finance and trade finance, so that for companies who are following along to reduce their supply chain emissions, this becomes a natural place where they could get financing, get special trade finance terms and whatnot. So I think that's a very real use case that we could work on together.
Perfect.
Exactly. But I would like to add also one point, I think, and now I'm connecting to what Mark said before. We started as an industry from a perspective to solve one issue, okay, specific on a specific industry. Now we are facing different and new big challenges. So I think, and we are providing an infrastructure. So I think how we can tackle this is to find a way to connect this network in a way that each industry can really help, by its network, can really help the near one in order to provide adding value. Okay, we are now having creating different multi-party systems that allows different use case work each other and provide let's say holistic solution. So I think how we can tackle these cross-industry challenges by developing this.
Yeah, I think it's literally a case of identifying, pinpointing the problems that we need to solve. I think the technology is there, and we talked about, Eugenio talked about network of networks. Well, we know, look, we've got, whether it's just purely within the Hyperledger or even outside of Hyperledger, everybody has this whole idea of network of networks, whether they're networks of similar topics, such as, multiple trade finance networks and then they collaborate, or multiple supply chains networks and then they collaborate. But now we're talking about intra-discipline, intra-domain networks really collaborating. So we talk about supply chain, trade finance, climate action, and accounting, and really kind of getting these three networks or three types of networks really connected. And that's really what we mean by kind of more holistic network of networks. And then the question is, okay, what problems are we really trying to solve? I mean, or what value are we really trying to, to deliver by actually getting these networks connected? So from as Sai was saying, it's really good in terms of the supply chain and the trade finance, so those who are actually providing the finances, and then actually having, the climate action, really, a lot of people, a lot of organizations, a lot of corporates are actually having green goals, green targeting, the green targets, whether it's carbon counting, whether it's carbon offsetting, whether it's, just purely on a moving away from financing fossil fuels. Very, very interesting challenge that all of us are kind of thinking, on a global scale, okay, from a climate perspective, it's a challenge that we want to address. It's a challenge that we want to, get out there, get in front, and actually come up with these solutions. The technology is there. It can allow us to do that. It's really a case of, and the call for action to, in this forum is to really kind of, to get, not just us, but to get even the attendees or, people who are listening, getting everybody really kind of thinking, okay, how do I want to get involved in, bringing about that change that we'd like to bring about? It's not, we obviously have to incentivize. So how can we put in the right incentives to bring about the change that we need to bring about? And I think this is where we're kind of saying, okay, this call to action in terms of to openly collaborate. We're not here for our own egos. We're not here to promote ourselves or anything. It's a question of we identify issues and problems, and we're looking to put in these solutions. And some of the areas that we think is really a case of connecting viable networks together to actually solve bigger problems at a societal level.
Perfect, Mark. Nice perspective, quotes. And you anticipated sort of, the following point that I would love to touch with you guys. We talked about why we did this, how we see it evolving. It's natural to think, from my perspective, what are our expectations? What do we want to achieve through this? Because I'm talking for myself. I have an expectation. I want to go from A to B. What do you think to be delivered as an achievement this collaboration? Mark, please start first.
Yeah, what we're I get what we're really trying to achieve is, I mean, look, we are going to create, I guess it's a Hyperledger collaboration working group. We're looking for really, you know, for people to kind of really promote ideas in terms of how we could, well, we know, I guess, you know, by being involved in open source, we know how to collaborate, at least within, you know, specific domains. Really what we're looking to do now in terms of this, you know, collaboration working group is identify key problem areas and how we can actually get, you know, the silos, for the want of a better terms, but the silos actually connecting together to solve bigger problems outside of a particular domain. So for example, in my case, so outside of just the trade finance domain, I want to be, you know, and we've already been having open discussions with SI on the climate action and accounting. So what can we do from a trade finance perspective with climate action and accounting? We've already had some very interesting discussions with the capital markets. We've had some very interesting discussions with the supply chain. But again, they're discussions. What we really want to try and do is identify problems, and not just, you know, trying to boil the ocean, identify problems that we can tackle on a ongoing, innovative, iterative basis. And that's really what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, you said it, not boiling the ocean, you know, and it's exactly my thoughts. Sai, what are the following steps, according to your opinion? What are we going to achieve in the future?
Yeah, I think we should, well, we've been working on this project to build a supply chain emissions ledger to calculate emissions of a supply chain based on the events in the supply chain. So I think the next step is to identify some supply chain use cases to work on, and then also to find either a bank or finance lender that's interested in, say, offering a green trade finance product, so that subject to whatever criteria they have that our ledger could be used to certify, they could offer more favorable terms to the people on that supply chain, so that we can start this as a process to roll it out in that direction.
Yeah, that's very concrete. I would like just to come back to what Mark said. I think narrowing down, we may have let's say 3 pain points in my mind. Okay, so we have let's call it in this way, a green computational problem on calculating the green assets and green benefits for the green operation. We may have on the finance side a liquidity problem to find solve the trade finance gap, which is still affecting the market. And at least from my perspective, we have let's say certification or optimization problem into the supply chain, into certifying specific requirements and process. So I think for instance, what C said is completely focused, and we may, with the help of the attendees, we may narrow down 3-4 bullet points in explaining these cross-industry challenges, and we may start from there, reasoning and brainstorming how to tackle this from different perspectives.
You touched a very sensitive points. I mean, from a trade finance specialist perspective, the huge trade finance gap and how to solve it. Eugenio, you know how many times we have talked about this over the last months, and how we can figure out how to sort out this. And of course, I share your opinion. We should focus into this in an orchestrated way with all the other SIGs. Eric, what's your perspective? You know, I consider that supply chain is so entwined with trade finance. So what are your expectations? What are your goals, your achievements in the future?
My expectations are that we will keep an open mind. I mean, all these silos that we talk about are all about, for me, and I'm generalizing, not trying to understand each other's realities, right? Trade finance has its reality, environment has, or climate has its reality, supply chains have their realities, and we keep on seeing on a weekly basis. We have, you know, blocked canals and crashing cranes and trade imbalances and crazy rates around the containers. You know, that's the reality for a lot of supply chain folks. So they don't tend to think about, or not often think about, the impact on the environment or climate when they make their decisions. So we all should try to understand each other's realities a bit more. Think of the impact to climate when we make supply chain decisions. Think of the impact of climate or supply chains when we make, you know, financing decisions, like you mentioned, right? Put the money where the mouth is, and just, you know, break down those silos. But from a business perspective, can be very difficult, but it's certainly doable. And you know, for me, where I'd like to go next is finding where we can have the biggest bang for the buck. So what would be more impactful in you know, the fastest way possible, and then, you know, work our way down. If we work our way up, the curve of change, I think, is going to be slower. So let's, you know, find something that we can all be very impactful on as a group, and work towards a solution for that.
Great points, Enrique. You know how much we're similar to each other. You know, from time to time, I tend to see, you know, trade finance, supply chain. If you ask me, I mean, trade and supply chain, what's different between them? I scratch my head, and sometimes I think it's really actual, real difference. So you think integrated, think as a unique process, a unique project. Again,
And also, Andrea, I think at the end is really dragging into the adoption and how the people understand and try, and how governments try to rule about that. So at the end, it's really needed also the help of all the chapters. And I'm saying this to come back to what Alfonso said, and also on my side, on the Italian chapter side. I think we need to find a way to use the chapter as a way to support the regulatory adoption into the local markets of our technology. This is a way we can effectively involve the chapters into different activities as a special interest group or technical groups we are doing. So I would like to share this thought with you.
Good points, Eugenio. You mentioned the Italian chapter. You know, we've worked together on this. So far we had a perspective, you know, in doing this, in the deliverables from the SIGs. Let's end this part of the discussion by having, you know, the perspective from another chapter, which is pretty big. It's Latin America. Alfonso.
Thank you. In terms of what we could do as a new working group, I agree with Eric, the biggest bang for the buck. Okay, and there are two low-hanging fruits that we should grab and enjoy. Okay, one is, as Sai presented, look for the common problems where collaboration makes sense. Climate is one of them. Absolutely. We haven't talked about it, but cities is another. Okay. And the second hanging fruit is our community, ourselves. Let's find in each SIG, in each working group, and open this to the meetups and the chapters. Let's find the people, okay, the people that wants to engage in cross mindset collaboration. Sai, a very good friend, recent friend, but I call him my laser friend because he is really focused. So he found one of the hanging fruits, which is climate, to collaborate. But he is an example of the hanging fruits we have in Hyperledger, the people wanting to connect. So what I would expect of this group as the first thing to do is identify problems and identify persons. And from that, we can do a lot.
Perfect. Thank you, Alfonso. They said, we gave, pretty clear picture of this call for action, guys. Let's give the conclusion. Let's come to sort of conclusion. Nobody should feel excluded from these initiatives. I'm thinking of, we mentioned the Italian chapter, we mentioned, of course, Latin America, but there's a huge played by also the Indian chapter, and there are a few members here today in the chat, which I will involve, once the speech is over. What could be a good conclusion to this, let's say, core presentation of this initiative?
I think we all go over to your house and you buy the wine, the good Italian wine that you and we take it from there. I think that would be a fantastic first step.
I know you would say, and it's pretty nice from you because I'm a cool guy. Although I live in a very nice corner of the world with good wine, I do invite you all to join me. This side of days, I want to hear.
Chianti aside, I think we may have identified at least 3 topics, major topics, where our activities can be channeled. I will share this idea. First of all, we already mentioned many times climate action. Climate change is a challenge to solve. Okay, and the second one, more related to our activity, Andrea, is financial inclusion. Okay, which is directly connected to liquidity and to the trade finance gap. And then I'd say what Alfonso said in cities, and which is more related to administration and management of information, which is strictly related to the supply chain activity in also from private perspective, but also from administrative perspective with ports and airports and all the logistic areas. So I think in the challenges and in the goals, we find these goals. So tackling problems in these 3 areas, okay? And in people, we may welcome everybody, in addition to, I think, the speakers who want to cooperate to, and maybe anyone is aware of any problems or specific capabilities who want to connect, to share, and to start from there. And very practical, we can open a specific page to share this starting from these goals and sharing specific problems of each industries, and we can meet and reconvene to define how to find common problems which can represent cross-industry challenges and start from there to solve
it. I see Sherwood raise his hands. Sherwood.
It's just a quick housekeeping question. And the question was just partially answered, but it sounds like there will be, for us to collaborate together, some sort of landing page will there be any kind of email list? And I think you mentioned standing meetings.
What I have in mind right now, we can agree on, is to set up, is to go through a series of meetings. Now we'll go into deeper details. We can agree in this occasion. Of course, we should meet on a regular basis, sharing ideas, sharing experiences, sharing projects. I'd love first to give a conclusion by giving the very last perspective from Mark, Zion, from Alfonso, on what, how we can conclude this meeting. Then I will hand it up to you all for any questions that might pop up. Mark.
Yeah. So just to answer Sherwood. So what we're proposing, and what the whole idea of the paper was effectively the creation of a new Hyperledger collaboration working group, and with that group, then they would meet on a regular basis. They would actually assess different ideas that we would actually promote and either put into the Hyperledger labs, whether it's integrations between networks, etc. Identify business cases. So it's effectively, yes, there would be a mail. It would be, like the existing, either working groups or special interest groups or chapters that we have in the moment. There would be mailing lists, there would be regular meetings, and and then there'd be kind of a call to action in terms of, okay, key topics and problems that we'd like that we see, by sharing our experiences, but then where we'd like to see whether we can seek, investment, either externally or whatever, or is there something that, in terms of these problems that we can solve within some of the members of our existing groups, whether, be it DTCC or be it whoever else is, or IBM or whoever else is using, or developing, some of the technologies. It's to really kind of, we want that working group really to be the glue between all of the other groups, identifying the problems, but also working on stuff and putting stuff into the Hyperledger labs, so that we can really, see these ideas come to fruition. We don't want it to be a talking shop. We don't want, we are very, very conscious of people and the value of their time. So it's not going to be a case of we meet, we shoot the breeze, we talk, once a week, or, once every 2 weeks or whatever. No, it's a case of we want to come, we want to identify the problems, we want to work on the solutions, and we actually want to realize something. And then it's working together and actually identifying how we can actually achieve that. That's the goal of the collaboration working group. And effectively, this session has been about, trying to, resonate with people, with all of the participants to see, okay, who wants to participate in that group and who wants to bring about the change.
Vipin was raising his hands. Vipin, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, big boss.
726-63-6939 should be muted, please. Anyway, it's ironic that we are proposing that we unite the groups by creating yet another group, but it's interesting also. So anyway, what I was going to say was, right from the beginning, like, for example, take trade finance, in ancient Sumeria, that's where digital currency started, tokenization started, supply chain started. So there has been collaboration like that created the world in many ways. So what is that? Anyway.
Himself, Vipin, I agree with you.
Okay, so what I was going to say was we already had some kind of an collaboration in the labs between climate change and Hyperledger Capital Markets, where we had the eThala project. But I would participate with all my heart in this enterprise. And right now, I'm just going to turn off my mic so that, we can collaborate later when we have time and space.
Great to have you on board, Vipin. You know how much I count on your collaboration. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but it all started last year, as you can see from the call to action, the call for action, sorry. It all started within, you know, the sparkle was in our 2 SIGs. It was capital market, it was trade finance, thanks to Eugenio who joined us. I mean, it was the common research that we shared on Chinese blockchain network. And you know, we went on with this by having the very first joint meeting on 24th of March with Mario Reichel, which I saw in the attendance, and Ania that tell us a few things about ISO 20022. So it proved to be successful, and you know, that was one of the 2 sparks this year and last year that got us on the way for initializing this. So Vipin, you're into this. I'm so glad to have your availability because I count on it. I count on you, on your insights. Anybody else? I mean, we just sort of given a conclusion to this call for action. So in the attendance, I can see also, I mean, Kamalesh, Arun from Hyperledger India chapter. I don't know whether they want to give us their opinion, if there is any questions from them. Kamalesh, are you still there?
Yeah, India, I'm still here. So yeah, so we at India chapter also doing lots of effort to promote the Hyperledger adoption. We also translated Hyperledger Fabric documentation to Tamil and Telugu, some Indian languages. And we also do lots of activities and hackathon to kind of promote the adoption. And to being part of this initiative is kind of to help with this collaboration to our expertise in our networking. And
Great.
I'm quite active in the trade finance, climate action groups. So I can share that experience too.
You're an asset. I mean, talking from my perspective, Kamalesh, you know how many times we met during the past. You're an asset, I would say, to the group. I can see other people. I don't know. I see Gene Mason. You know, we exchanged a few words by mail in the past. If he wants to give his own opinion, Jim, let's see you here.
I'm sort of half here and half not here. I'm dealing with what I call an air conditioning emergency, which is like top of the heap other than people dying. Second biggest thing is air conditioning, I think. So I've been off and on the meeting, but the comments I've heard make sense. And I would definitely say I'm the leader of the public sector group, along with Anjan, and the 2 of us, we've been working in public sector for, I don't know, last 2 years or year and a half. And that group, of course, almost everything's cross domain. So we did a lot of identity stuff. I coordinate a little bit with Vipin. We did a lot of healthcare stuff. We have state initiatives. We have legal stuff. I also work in that European blockchain forum as well. So I see a lot of other issues over in blockchain space and other domains over there to coordinate with as well. And then I run the Boston Hyperledger meetup. So I'm in the regular meetup cycle as well. And certainly been working with David Boswell and John Carpenter for several years on trying to coordinate meetup meetings and drive attendance up in that area as well. But I think you're right. The general theme here has been that we have these groups, and as you start to address more complex problems, you're having to move outside your own space and having to touch other areas as well. And it's a good thing to start trying to bring all that together for sure. And there are different strategies we can talk about. You know, I think the Confluence thing is sort of okay the way it is. I think the Learning Materials Working Group, to Bobby Mascara's credit, has tried to be cross-domain. She's got some stuff over there that has been helpful. It doesn't cover everything, but if you're looking into a domain that you aren't in, going to that site has always been sort of a first stop for me, which has been somewhat helpful as well. So anyway, that's my take. I think it's an important thing to do. And I think everything I work on now is almost without exclusion, never going to fit into a single either domain or a single technology either. So every time I work on a solution, it's not just blockchain. I'm bringing in analytics, automation, all those other issues as well, data modeling, data services, and all the related stuff. So
Perfect,
anyway,
Jim.
it's a journey, but it's nice to have other people who are dealing in the other domains. So I don't mind leaning on you specifically or anybody else to be my, I'll call it guiding light as I move over into trade finance now on a project. So
Great to have you aboard, Jim. So I would love, to end this meeting because we're now exceeding an hour, I think, Mark. I'll give
Andrea, I think Pratik is raising his hands. Maybe if there is.
Oh, here's Pratik Sharma. Hello, Pratik.
Hi, Andre. How are you doing?
Everything's good, luckily. How about you? I hope everything is fine.
Yeah, we are safe. Things moving on.
Today, after a few messages that we exchanged over the social networks, great to see you here today. I'm glad to hear your perspective, your expectations.
Yeah.
Final insight.
Right. So, what I want to put up here is that, one thing that we are undergoing is blockchain is not only about connecting the financial institutions with the manufacturing company. So to give you an example, we are right now focusing on the seafood industry, exporting to specifically to European and America. So the concerns that the importing companies have is that they have actually come up from their side and asking for getting the quality documents or the lab reports to be put on blockchain. So again, we need a interoperability between a sort of government nodal agencies which are authorized to do this lab inspections of this seafood samples that they provide. So other than like getting the financial institutions, it's also about getting more and more number of players that are involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Pratik. I would handle final remarks to both Sai-Chen and to Alfonso to close down this meeting and to welcome everybody to join us in this initiative. So of course, you will all be posted for any updates. Sai, Alfonso.
Yeah, I think actually, Pratik, what you said is really interesting. And we've talked to some other companies, Andrea and I, with similar needs. So I think maybe as a next step, we should get everybody who has requirements, use cases to come together with us. And let's figure out exactly what your supply chain looks like, what the test reports are needed so that we could build out a set of features that could work for a lot of different people.
We're actually putting together some kind of call for use cases. We're working on it now to go out to industry and ask everybody what you're doing and what would you like to do, and hopefully Hyperledger can come in and help.
Yeah.
In the end, this is what we've done today. So we started off. Pratik, glad to have you with us. Glad to have you on board. You're always welcome. At last we can see each other's face, and start collaborating effectively.
Right.
Alfonso, will you close the meeting, with some insights, your final insights?
Very, very short, 2 sentences. Let's reach out to see what each community is doing. And let's apply our expertise to develop new expertise. Reach out and work together.
Perfect. Thank you, Alfonso. Thank you so much. So, from my side, Mark, are we going to let's say, welcome everybody to the follow-up? If there is anybody else who would love to step in and ask questions, of course, we can give good answers in the follow-up.
I think it's a case of let's follow up with the next, in terms of the proposal for the working group, the proposal for the call, for the ideas, and then, you know, where people can actually, if there's requirement for people to actually, you know, elaborate on their ideas, and then we actually just start going into, you know, how we can actually better, you know, select those key ideas to then work on them.
Perfect. So hope to see you soon again, very soon. You know, when the time will be, we will give you plenty of information. So glad to have you all here today. It was a very nice meeting. Can't wait for the follow-up.
Thank you, Andrea, and thank you everyone for the time. Very nice, insightful conversation. Look forward to receive any feedback from the audience.
Perfect.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice day, yo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.